Hey guys, welcome back to We Watch Movie. I am Mike. Thanks for spending a moment of your day with me to talk once again about Scream 6 and where we stand on the whole Stu Lives idea. Now, before I get into anything else, tonight on March the 13th at 8 p.m. Eastern, we are having a spoiler party for Scream 6. We are talking all the spoilers. We're going to see what that movie's insights look like, Sydney or Greg or whoever. I'm going to talk about it. You're going to talk about it. We're going to bounce off ideas off each other. We're going to have a great time. You're going to hit me with the phone, dick. Click subscribe and make sure you click the bell so that... What was it? Make sure you click the bell so that your phone or your tablet or whatever will be like, hey, don't forget, there's a Scream 6 spoiler party going on right now, Greg. You need to get your ass to it. Go ahead and do it right now. I'll wait. Thank you. So where do we stand on Stu being alive after the events of Scream 6? There's a lot of incorrect information I feel like floating around out there. So first off, let me just let you guys know where I stand on the whole thing. I believe that Stu could be alive. I think the extremes of each of this are kind of wrong. I think it's wrong to be like, Stu is definitely dead, and you're not even allowed to talk about whether or not you think he's alive or not, or have fun with it. So fuck you, have a nice day, eat some fucking French toast. I think that's the wrong way to go, although I do love French toast as much as the next guy. But on the other side, I think at the end of this, say they only do 7 movies, which I highly doubt. Did you see how much money this thing made? Holy crap, most in the franchise, 6th installment. Unheard of. That's just nuts. But you can't go into that going, I'm going to be disappointed with this movie no matter what if they don't bring Stu back. I think it should be a surprise, and if it happens, great. But if not, we still got a legendary performance, and you're not going to have to spend the rest of your life arguing about whether or not a TV killed somebody. So, win-win. I want to see Stu back. Matthew Lillard, Stu is probably my favorite character from the whole franchise. I love him so much. That's where I stand on my hopes and dreams. I'm not going to judge what these people do with their movies if they just don't bring one character back fan service wise. What I've believed in the past, and for a second there I thought this was going to happen with Scream 6. I made a whole pitch video that many of you guys have watched and we've talked about a lot. That it was until Nev says she wasn't coming back, I was like, okay, that idea is squashed until maybe she comes back in 7, if she comes back. So you have to have Nev for my whole Stu theory to work. But the number one reason that people have had for saying Stu is absolutely dead, fuck you, eat French toast, and you know, that whole thing, as we said, I'm hungry, is that if Stu was alive and in jail, they would have mentioned him at some point in the franchise. And you're absolutely right. I think the same thing. I don't think he's been in jail, though. I think that they faked his death. Just to give you a quick rundown of my whole Scream 6 pitch, which eventually I'll make another one for 7. The gist of it is the fact that Stu's, when they put him in the ambulance, he still had a pulse. They had called his dad. The sheriff and his dad may have been friends. You can tie this up any way you want to, but just the bare basics of it. Maybe the sheriff and dad were his friends. You see how much money his parents have? Look at his fucking house. Say a prayer for the youth of America. His parents obviously have a buttload of money, and maybe the sheriff was a friend, or he owed him a gambling debt. Who knows? The sheriff was very sketchy that entire movie, in my opinion. We never really delved into that. On the flip side of that, I think that maybe he called him. He said, "Hey, listen, if my son goes to the hospital and lives or whatever, he's going to be in jail for the rest of his life. He's going to be a pariah. Help me out." On the flip side, you could easily do something like, say, the drunk kids who left Stu's party to go see Principal Hembry's body hanging. That were drunk driving almost hit Gale and Dewey. Say they got in a wreck and all of them died in a fiery blaze. The cops are running around with Ghostface. Maybe they literally burnt to death in that wreck. So right there you have a closed casket body that you could easily pull a switcheroo around with, do something, dental records, whatever you want to do, that the writers could finagle. Now, me saying that's one thing. Imagine the writers honing that in and then also having Matthew Lillard deliver those lines, pulling off the ghost face mask as Stu, telling Sydney and whoever else is in the room, like, it's nice to have friends in high places, Sydney. You know, something like that. Something way better than that, obviously, but that's my whole idea. That's what I think could happen. Now, on to the point of the video. Where does Scream 6 leave us with the whole Stu Truther situation? Well, Scream 5 barely mentioned him. It was just on the bottom of that, right under, by the way, them showing that Kirby was still alive as a survivor. You saw the little icon at the bottom of the video that's like something along the lines of, did Stu secretly survive? Is Stu Macher still alive? Something like that. One of those like conspiracy video type things. But there was a hint at it all the way back in Scream 5. Now, fast forward to Scream 6 where we end. And again, Scream 6 spoilers abound in this. But there's really 2 main things. Now, they showed the TV, of course, and all that stuff. Some awesome Stu Easter eggs. Kirby even kills Ethan with the Stu TV set, which is amazing. But the first one that comes up, you've had a lot of people, and this is what I mean by misinformation, coming out and being like, I'm so glad they put the Stu thing to rest in this movie. And it's like, bitch, what you talking? I don't know what movie you watch, but that's not what they did here at all. Like, what happened here is when Kirby's talking to Dermot Duchovny, camera flips over to the board and you see all the characters and whatnot, and it shows Stu right there. Underneath it says death. Stu Macher, death, 1996. Now, people will also say, if you look over to the right, there's like a question mark over here. That could be on purpose, maybe, maybe not, I don't know. But it just saying that he died on that board is absolutely not the movie saying Stu is dead. I'm sorry, it's just not, especially, I just said, like, my whole theory is that Stu's not been in prison. I think that would be terrible writing if they try to have Stu in prison and have him not mentioned. You'd think if Ghostface popped up in any of these movies, the first thing people would think is, I wonder if Stu Macher has something to do with this from behind bars. So of course he's dead in everyone's eyes around us. Of course they think he's dead, and that question mark even adds a little bit more speculation to that. But then later in the film, they kind of, if you thought that that door was slammed shut, that imaginary door got kicked the fuck right back open when Kirby's character's talking to Mindy, and she's like, yeah, this is the TV that killed Stu Macher. And she's like, yeah, if you believe he's dead. So that just shows right there, there's at least a rumor going around behind the scenes from the iPad in Scream 5 to Mindy saying, if you believe he's dead. Someone who's a huge fan of the stab movies and horror movies and all that stuff like that probably spends quite a bit of a time on Reddit having a good old time. And that's also how she figured out how to survive a really, really deep stomach stab wound and be on her feet just running around having a good time 12 minutes later. And also I want to point you to the latest interview that we just saw that came out right as Scream was premiering that we talked about in one of the Scream updates, where they asked the writers about it, they asked the directors about it, they even asked Kevin Williamson about it, who previously told somebody, he said, yeah, Stu's dead. That was another moment where you had a bunch of people going, no, see, Stu's dead, it's over with. And the whole idea is, look, was Andrew Garfield Spider-Man or not? You know, like how many times did he say he wasn't in that fucking movie? And Kevin Williamson has never, ever gone out before and said, I think Stu is dead. They've asked him directly about it, and he's never said, I think Stu is dead. He talked about him being in Scream 3. For all of a sudden, Scream 6 to be coming out, and him to be like, oh, by the way, everyone, Stu's dead, just so you know. That's super suspect to me. Everyone's a suspect! Especially Kevin Williamson for being a goddamn liar in this situation. I love him. He's doing his job. I would lie about it too. Of course he's not going to say Stu is alive if they plan on bringing Stu back. Come on, Sydney, fuck! But in this interview that they did with the writers, the directors, with Kevin Williamson, they all said the same thing. This is the most recent it's been discussed as far as I know. They all said, hey, you never know. They asked Skeet Ulrich about it, and he said, I know that Matt really wants to do it. They asked Kevin Williamson, he even said, never say never. So I mean, there you have it. I think it's open. I think it could happen for sure, and that's where we stand on it officially, but let's take a look at some other things for fun. One question we have after this movie is Stu the mastermind behind all of this? Does that possibility still exist? One of my main reasons in my pitch to have Stu still be back alive was that you could really fill the plot holes from both of these movies. A lot of the problems people have with Scream 5 and Scream 6 could actually be fixed by the fact that if Stu was the mastermind running all this. And here's how. Number one, the whole Amber not being able to kill these people for her height and all that. And would Amber be able to kill Dewey one-on-one after all the shit that he's been through and survived? Lord, no, it's a huge plot hole in the movie. I think that it was Stu in that scene specifically. Now people say, yeah, but Amber says that she did it. Of course she's gonna say he did it. Go back to Exhibit A with Kevin Williamson. She's trying to fuck with Gail. She's, you know, and of course, if they're under the cultship of Stu doing all this for him, then of course they're gonna say that. They're not gonna say, actually, the guy I wasn't supposed to tell you existed did that. Look at the height, look at the way he moves, everything. The whole hospital scene from 5 totally seems like it was Matthew Lillard to me. And of course, he'd be the one that wanted to kill Dewey. Now, that plot hole's fixed from 5 if you have Stu behind the scenes of both these movies running everything. Another plot hole that gets fixed is the fact that Quinn's character did a lot of shit in this movie as well that would be hard to believe she was capable of physically. And that's something I really didn't want them to do again. I feel like we were at our welcome with having the physical aspects of Ghostface not matched the person who reveals himself to be Ghostface. And it was nice to have the detective actually have those abilities, and that makes sense. But if you place them at the scenes that they're at in the movie, Quinn did a lot of heavy lifting. She apparently picked up Gail's boyfriend like a ninja of the night, suffering an injustice. Picks his big ass up and throws him across the room. I couldn't throw that guy 6 fucking inches. That, again, that's 2 main cast members during their attacks whose killer reveal does not match the descriptions, right? Now, and both of them, again, are legacy members. Dewey's death and Gail's attempted death scene one-on-one. Both of those, two people who Stu, of course, those are the ones he'd want to kill. He recruits these kids through Reddit or wherever, living in his parents' fucking attic, wherever they've been stashing them this entire time. And however you want to write that shit, they've mentioned Reddit and things like that several times on here, and true crime is a huge deal. We all know that. Of course, he would let them do some of the stuff on the side, but when it comes to the main people he would want to be there for. And you'd have a valid argument to say that, yeah, but what about Sydney and Gail in the kitchen at the end of 5? Stu wasn't there then. And I would say to that, yeah, you do have an argument, but also, I think Stu knew those kids were fucked and they weren't going to be able to take down Gail and Sydney. I think they got as far as they were going to get, especially with everything going on. I think he was just collateral damage at that point, pushing them to the side. But I could easily see Matthew Lillard telling Sydney as Stu in that moment, yeah, but I wasn't done with you yet, Sid. But I think the idea that Stu is still the mastermind running all this is very much still alive, especially when you go back to 5 and Amber's telling them when we bought this house. So Stu's parents, if the idea is that they kept him alive secretly, of course they're going to get the fuck out of Woodsboro, probably go somewhere like, I don't know, New York. Amber's parents bought Stu's house, so how easy would it have been for Stu to find out who she was, find out everything about her, contact her on the internet, and get this whole thing started, especially when you look at the whole fact about Richie's family. After what happened to Richie, guess who probably would have contacted her dad and everybody and been like, hey, this is what was going on with your son. Do you want to make the people who did it pay like I do? It makes total sense to me that if Stu is really just trying to push Sydney to a breaking point and kill off Gail and everybody and just keep these attacks going, finding new people online and getting in their head or speaking to them or whatever, getting them to this point, he could have been the one that found the film nuts that were going to Samara Weaving's college and got them started, and then also told the detective, hey, get rid of this for me. It's kind of like the Joker in The Dark Knight, right? When it's like, oh, I'm supposed to kill the so-and-so guy, and the clowns are like killing each other one after another after they finish their piece of the job, and then Joker's left with all the money. That could be what's going on with Stu here. He set up Richie and Amber because he knew that they were fucked. He set up the two kids at the college. He set up Richie's family. And when Sydney wasn't there, he's probably just decided, hey, I don't care about what's going on here. You guys finish whatever. Or maybe, fuck, he could have been in that entire shrine room the entire time. It also helps to reason about how the detective got all that shit and Richie got all that shit in the first place. So I'm not going deep into every little aspect of it right now. I'm just painting the picture that, guess what? The whole cult of Ghostface thing, the whole Stu running this entire thing, it still exists. And again, I'm not saying it has to be that. I'm not saying it has to be that at all. They could not bring Stu back. They could bring Stu back in an entirely different way. But my best theory that I can come up with that I think would be pretty cool is if 7 brings Sydney back. And maybe she knew she was going to come back for this as well. Maybe she knew at 7 that they were going to pay her the right amount for a full role in a movie. But in 6, she was going to have a very, very tiny role. And they wanted to pay her for a tiny role, not a big role. Maybe. I don't know. I'm not movie fucking Matlock. I'm just saying that's a possibility. And so maybe Sydney comes back in Scream 7. If Sydney comes back, they can bring Stu back and it all comes full circle. Maybe Radio Silence makes 5 more Scream movies. And this thing just keeps getting hotter and hotter and hotter. And Scream 10 is when we finally reveal Stu. I don't know what's going to happen, and I don't really care. As long as they deliver us good movies, I love what we got with Stu. Matthew Lillard was amazing. I won't be upset if they don't bring him back. I won't rage or hashtag release the Stu cut. I don't know, whatever. But, so don't get me wrong here. I'm not, movies don't create psychos. They make psychos more creative. Shit, who knows? Maybe one day down the road, somebody new nightmares this whole bitch, and we actually have Neve Campbell playing herself, Matthew Lillard playing herself, Skeet Ulrich playing himself. We can bring back everybody, and we can do a story about a Ghostface who's attacking the actors from the Scream movies. Why the fuck not? That's actually what they should do when Radio Silence is done with this. Holy shit, what if they did that for the 7th one in honor of Wes Craven, New Nightmare? Who knows? I don't. Do you? Fuck off. Just kidding. So, guys, that's what I'm saying. That's where we stand right now. You've still got multiple people out there that are related to Stu, that could be related to Stu. What's up with Sam and Tara's mom? What's going on there? There's so many links to stuff out there in the world. What am I doing? Honk, honk! There's so many links to stuff out there in the Scream universe that anything could happen. I think maybe the writers for this have a plan in place. And that they could switcheroo at any time. Hey, we could bring Stu back, and we could make him the leader of all this, and we could fill in these plot holes as we go along from the killers, or we could just leave it be and change it up at any time. They're leaving themselves in a very fluent situation, very much the opposite of the end of Halloween 5, if you will. So I'm very excited, but in my mind, that's where we stand with Stu. It's still possible he's alive. The theories are still possible. They haven't closed the door on it yet. And hopefully, if they're not going to do it, they'll stop hinting at it a little bit, because you don't want to get people upset. What do you guys think about all this? Comment down below. I can't wait to hear your all's thoughts. And we will see you tonight, Sydney, at 8 p.m. Eastern. I love your fucking faces. You guys have an awesome day. Halloween never ends, suck my fucking dick, and I don't really care what Blumhouse fucking says. Put him in a box, or suck a fucking cock. You can say he's dead, but we all know he's not. Yeah. So let's go trick-or-treating, let's go fucking drinking, let's all go rent Pumpkinhead on VHS, cause Halloween